Hi everyone, this week we're going to be discussing the best tool to improve your architecture and interior photography. Let's do this. I don't know what you've been told, but this here is not your home. You want some trouble, you want some. So what am I discussing? Well, the crop tool. I believe it's your friend to great composition, especially when you combine it with grid overlays. It can take your compositions in camera from being almost perfect to perfect with some smaller tweaks and changes. And if you place on grid overlays with it, which I'm going to show you today, then of course you can make some amazing compositional changes and really fine tune your work. Some people will know what the grid overlays is, and of course I would say stick around even if you do, because the idea here is that I can maybe show you something you haven't thought about in terms of compositional techniques using this tool. For anyone who doesn't know who I am, my name is James Kerwin. If you like the kind of content I produce, perhaps you can consider subscribing using the button below. I primarily shoot architecture and interior photography. I love relics, ruins and abandoned buildings all around the world. I also shoot things like ghost towns and off the beaten path locations. I love this kind of stuff, but I also do love travel photography, stock video and obviously producing for this channel as well. Okay, that's enough about me. Let's crack on with today's discussion. The first thing we're going to look at, of course, is just the traditional crop tool in different formats, and we'll see how we can use it to our advantage. So here we are in Lightroom. Standard crops and some unique crop tools that we're going to use. So here is a selection of images, and I've made a few errors with a couple of them that I just want to show you what we can do. So obviously if we go to develop here and we go to this part here, this is our crop tool, which by the way, our crop overlay tool in Lightroom is probably my favorite crop tool. I prefer it to Photoshop because it gives you sort of really unique control, really can grab the details, and you can see if there's any missing edges and things like that. I find it sometimes in Photoshop, I miss the edges and there's little white trims and things like that, or black trims that I've missed. So I prefer this crop tool here. So the first thing, of course, if we do the crop tool, here we've got our aspect ratio. So I might, on this image, use a 4:5. So these are my standard ratios. And of course, you can do custom ones or shot ratios here. On this image, I'm going to do a 4:5. This is going to be like an Instagram style post. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that up so I've got like enough space here. Now I've got a number of things I can do. I can pull the file in, but I quite like it now where it's sat. And you'll see what I've done. What I've done there is I've got the grid overlay, and it's using my rule of thirds. You see here, rule of thirds. So on the left, we've got the green. That's separated by the middle section of this house. And on the right section, and falling on this junction here, we have this bush. And then if we then press done, we then got a nice clean image. We've got a really nicely composed shot. So although there's nothing really wrong with the original, I quite like where this one now sits. We could even pull it down a little bit just to ensure that we get this leaf just in the bottom here and get it composed right. But I think that leads me through the image, a nice clean image, green on the left hand side, grass on the right and through the center. So that's a nice easy start, right? So that's the first one. One of the main reasons why I think the crop tool is perfect for, helping your architecture photography. Look at this image here. You would think it's absolutely fine, right? But it's not. It's actually slightly, this staircase in the center here is actually slightly to the right of frame. And when we pull up the overlay, you can actually see that. So we're going to cycle through to this one. This is a nice clean break. It just splits the image into 4 sections. And what you can see here is a line going through the middle and a line going from left to right. And you can see quite clearly that our center line is a little bit off. So what I can do is just pull this in to the right here. And this is an image I uploaded fairly recently, and I've obviously now just improved that 100%. Basically, it's a slight amend. I've pulled it in just a little bit, but I've now positioned it in the middle of the frame, which is obviously what I was trying to achieve originally. So a nice quick fix, nothing too complicated. On this one, it's the same thing, another example. You can see here actually we're still a little bit off. And how you can tell is because, this central column here, the central beam of the roof, and this light that's coming through here are just a tiny smidgen off. So just by pulling it in, we can check. And I know it's only a tiny little amend, but every tiny little bit of perfection helps. And that gives us something, exactly straight, nice and even. And that's another example of exactly the same use of the tool. Okay, so we've used the crop tool to our advantage. Now what? Well, you can actually use the grid overlay that I've already placed onto the subject to rotate through other, compositional ideas. So use the O key and you can actually go through the different grid overlays. So let's have a look at the next one, which is going to be diagonals, which of course is going to be good for diagonal qualities. Let's have a look. We go back to our crop tool, we press O, like I said a minute ago, and we go through to the second one, which is diagonals. As you can see, it creates a diagonal overlay. Now this image isn't far off what I wanted to achieve, but basically, if I nip in the bottom corner here, just a tiny smidgen, what we've now done is we've allowed this section of the image to be on, basically the overhead, the structure of the building to be on this diagonal. We've allowed this one to almost be on there, and we've allowed the stairs to come in, meet on this diagonal, and then come down on this diagonal. So it comes down on this line. It's not perfect by any means, but you can see how we've split the image up, and it's a nice little way of thinking. So if we press OK, that's basically our crop. A nice little slight amend just to double check and make sure it fits. Again, it would be brilliant if I could bring this up further and maybe have that join and that join and that join, these diagonals are joining, and it does work. I mean, we could go for that, but the problem is with this one, yeah, I mean, it would work, but the problem is with this one is I like to see a bit more of this and not leave quite such a tight crop there. So I'm just going to pull it back a tiny bit, and I think here is spot on. So that's my second one. Okay, so the next one is actually going to be the triangle tool. It's actually quite difficult to use this sometimes in the field, but when you do nail it, it looks really good. So I've found one example from some of my older work, and I want to show you today. So some more advanced crop tools we can use, or some more advanced grid overlays we can use to improve our compositions. It's not easy to spot what I've done here at the first time of asking, but if we pop on the grid overlay again, we use the O button, like I said, to cycle through, you can clearly see here a bit more of what I've done. And what this basically means is you're putting your subject here on this line, or here where these two lines meet here. And that's exactly what I've done, and it's difficult to spot the first time. Of course, you've got the piano here in this bottom section, you've got a bit of dead space on this top left-hand side section, you've got the door on the right section here, this right triangle, and you've got the top of the staircase in this top triangle. And it's a really simple technique. Once I lay that overlay, you can really see what I've done. I've cropped this image already, so we don't need to amend it. Took away a lot of dead space on the floor, cropped it in, filled my frame with the composition, and this is the final result. Okay, another one is the golden spiral. Now, traditionally, this is obviously going to be used with spiral staircases, and I have got one example for you here. But the thing people don't know is you can rotate some of these overlays, and you can do that by pressing Shift and O to change the orientation of the overlay. And if you use that on some of these tools, you can really get great effects. You can also do it with the triangle tool, but I'm going to show you an example here with the golden spiral where you wouldn't think it's working, but when I show you, you'll see what I'm saying. So yeah, let's have a look at that one. Like I said a minute ago, you press Shift and O and you actually get the spiral form in different ways. On this case, I'm actually going to go through to one of the last options it provides us, and it gives us this here, which you can see actually, if you look at my stairs, they're kind of working, but they're a little bit off. We could actually neaten this up and make it a little bit better just by nipping this in a tiny, tiny bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, but suddenly look, the stairs are on, we're nipping it in a tiny bit, we're pulling it central, and now we've got our ratio. Perfect. Easy as that, nice simple adjustment, and it improves the composition. Okay, final example. Here we are, looking at the same tool. We're going to use the same tool, but on this image here. This is just an exposure blended TIFF file. Go to develop, bring up the crop tool. Now I'm going to just, again, Shift and 0 to run through my rotation. And what we have here now is we have something a bit different. What we've done here now is we've rotated it around, and you can see clearly that your eye here is supposed to go through the base of the image, up this staircase, up the right hand side, before eventually falling onto this stained glass skylight. And that's a unique way of looking at it. But with this particular one, like I said, you could use this in multiple ways. If we went off this rotation, so we've got that rotation, it also works that way. Not quite the same because you haven't got the stairs, but you can get the idea. So we've got the golden spiral fitting in there, but if we cycle through, most of the ratios and the overlays actually fit this one, this one, this one. And you see, composition has improved greatly. So there's some examples for you. So we've got the first 4 there and the final 3 there. Okay, so the crop tool really then allows error fixes, and I don't think you should be scared to use it because it allows error fixes. I think it can just improve your composition no end. And I don't think you should be scared to say you've used it, and I think it really helps you grow and fine-tune those compositions and make your images pop a little bit as well in terms of compositional standpoint. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, perhaps you'll consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification. I upload videos on a Thursday and a Sunday, and you'll be notified if you hit the bell when I do upload new content. It tends to be 1 sit-down video tutorial based a week and then 1 live in the field, which I'm sure you'll enjoy. If you've got any questions or there's something I've missed with this tool, then please do leave them in the comment section below and we can discuss it. I'll ensure to get back to you all. Okay, if you've liked this video, maybe you'll consider sharing it with a friend. And do me a favour, tickle the like button. Until next time, bye-bye for now.